Hello and welcome to this week's edition of the Good 5 Cent Cigar Newscast. I'm Ellie Sennhenn. Thank you so much for joining us. This week, we'll hear student perspectives on URI's Counseling Center, get advice about managing finals week stress, watch an Easter egg hunt, hear from graduating cigar staff, get our weekly federal orders update from Casey Chan-Smutko, and see a URI Quad celebration. And of course, David Okula will have all things Rhody athletics covered in this week's Rhody Sports Corner. For our top story, Abby LePage explored student satisfaction at the URI Counseling Center. For more on what students think of the system, here's Abby.
Struggling with mental health at URI, the Counseling Center at Roosevelt Hall is dedicated to getting students back on track and steering them in the right direction.
Yeah, so we assess the severity and urgency of treatment, and that's where, potentially higher level of care is suggested, or just, our typical level of care here, which is weekly to bi-weekly counseling.
A survey conducted by URI Honors Student Advocates in 2019 revealed that 70% of students struggle with mental health at some point in college. 35% of students were satisfied, 45% were only partially satisfied, and 20% were not satisfied with their counseling center experience.
I know that there are some resources, but I feel like getting in contact with people at the counseling center can be tricky. I know last year I tried for a friend, and just knowing exactly where to go was kind of hard.
If a student needs help outside of the center's regular hours, TELUS Health is an online resource that students can access in various ways. In-person wait times have also reduced in the past couple of years.
Presently, we can get a student in to start with a counselor within about a week's time.
While the URI community email sends out reminders around important events about the counseling center, there are no details given about the services offered.
Honestly, I don't really know what it is, or I actually haven't really even thought about whether I needed it or not. Or I've never really seen any advertisement for it, or what services are offered.
We certainly do our best to do a lot of outreach activities. We post things on, limited social media.
All URI students have access to some form of support 24/7. It's just a matter of whether they're aware or not.
Thanks, Abby. For our next story, Stephen Russo visited health services for advice about finals week stress.
It's time for us to get ready for finals week. At the bottom of this hill here is URI Health Services. We're going to be talking to a couple of people in health promotions today to see the advice that they have for you on how to make your finals week less stressful and more productive.
So my best advice would be to get organized on due dates, get organized on what you need ahead of time, kind of write it all down, map it out. Having a map actually is going to be pretty helpful, because then you can kind of see ahead of time what your downtime is going to be, where you're going to have spaces where you can relax, you can de-stress, you can go have fun. Make a little cubby hole and just say, all right, I'm going to spend the next 2 hours here. I have all the snacks I need. I have my favorite drinks. I have my music. Schedule breaks. That's another thing. I think a lot of students think they can go, push. I'm going to study for 6 hours. And that usually backfires, because your brain will probably shut down about maybe a quarter of the way through. Well, when you're stressed out, you're usually not performing at your best academically. You're not able to balance, emotional demand.
What would you recommend they do to calm down and just think about it for a minute?
Get up and move your body. Get up and move your body, get out, go do something physically active, get out in nature.
What would you recommend students do to ensure they get their correct amount of rest?
So for college students, on average, I'd love to see at least 7. Less than 7, you start to lose benefits from sleep. What do I normally need to sleep? I need, my temperature to be a certain way in the bedroom. I need lighting to be a certain way. I need to feel comfortable, or I need to have a sleep mask or hearing protection. What can I do to make sure I'm still taking care of me and getting the sleep I need? For my final advice, I would say just know that if you are feeling overly maxed, overly stressed, if you know something isn't okay, and that you're experiencing stress that's higher than normal, just know that we have a lot of wonderful on-campus resources for students.
If you have any additional questions on your unique health situation, whether it be physical or mental, feel free to visit the Potter Building here on Butterfield Road. Also, you can email them at health@uri.edu. That being said, I'm Stephen Russo. Back to you.
Thanks, Stephen. In another campus event, Phoebe Shwartz joined an Easter egg hunt on the Kingston campus. Here's Phoebe with the story.
On Wednesday, April 16th, there was an epic Easter egg hunt hosted by Soldier Collegiate, where they hid 600 eggs. Here's what people thought of the event. URI students gathered outside the library on a hunt to collect Easter eggs filled with a variety of prizes.
I'm excited to be here for this egg hunt today. We have our bags. We came here to hunt some eggs and win some prizes. Happy Easter! Happy Easter!
Prizes included a projector, gift cards, a hammock, Bluetooth speaker, and more. Students raced around campus in search of the eggs.
Which bush?
How do you feel in this moment? I just sprint. But now the million-dollar question, which bush?
Which bush is that building?
Here's Phoebe with the Good 5 Cent Cigar. Back to you.
Thanks, Phoebe. Next up, Katelyn Drenga spotlighted the Good 5 Cent Cigar's graduating staff members.
This is Katelyn Drenga reporting you from the Good 5 Cent Cigar office, where I spoke with 3 of the members of our e-board and staff who are saying goodbye to the cigar as they move into the next chapter of their life.
Looking back on your time at the cigar, what would you say you're going to miss the most?
I've only been with the cigar for about a year. I started really late, but definitely from this semester, I think I'm going to miss our editors and news editor group chat, and whenever something really, really big happens, everyone immediately puts it in the group chat and piles it on, with all the Trump orders and everything happening in the past couple months. It's just, I don't know, it's felt cool to have a lot of momentum and that you're in it with these other people.
I think what I'm going to miss most about the cigar is the camaraderie between all the editors. I'm definitely going to miss, as crazy and as long as those Wednesdays were, I'm definitely going to miss coming here at 5 p.m., not getting out until 12 a.m., but still waking up the next day and looking at something that I played a part in making and being proud of it.
Didn't really take too many classes until this semester on writing for print. I mean, I took Journalism 220, but I think that this, being a part of the cigar, has really enhanced my writing skills, and I've made a lot of work that I'm really proud of, so I feel like I can actually show stations or newspapers that I'd like to work for examples of my work, and I feel like it's definitely helped me in my career, and it's probably been the biggest help out of everything I've done in college.
Learned a lot about how to manage others, how to manage a section in itself, which took some learning. I definitely had to learn the hard ways, and we would get to certain points in the week and things wouldn't always be where they had to be. But you learn, you grow, and you figure out strategies, you develop ways to counteract some of those obstacles.
What are your plans moving forward in this next chapter of your life?
Working freelance and finding a part-time job. I'm looking into specifically animal agriculture because that's what I've done for work before, and that's what I like doing. But
We have an internship in environmental policy this summer, which I'm really excited about because during my time here, I've mostly written about environmental issues, and it's something I'm really passionate about. So I'm doing that internship, and I'm going to study for the LSAT, and hopefully go into environmental law, using all of my writing skills from the cigar.
Love doing, I've anchored the newscast, and I've taken some packages. I definitely want to keep doing some broadcast. TV news, definitely something that I'm looking forward to on the horizon.
We have a lot of preconceived notions about news is only politics, news is only sports or whatever, but in reality, you can really make news out of anything, and it's just about looking for those little angles or maybe that one issue that you think you're the only one that cares about. But when you start looking into it, you can find a whole bunch of people and a whole bunch of stories. So,
Wishing you all the best of luck. I think I can speak on behalf of the entire cigar when I say we're going to miss you guys. This is Katelyn Drenga, back to you.
Next, Casey Chan-Smutko has this week's Federal Orders Update.
This is Casey Chan-Smutko, your Federal Order reporter for the Good 5 Cent Cigar. In this week's report, I'll recap the latest update about how URI is handling federal actions. On April 11th, the Department of Energy proposed a 15% rate cut for all higher education institutions and plans to terminate awards that do not comply with their updated policy. On April 14th, several universities, and national organizations were looking to stop this proposal. A lawsuit has been filed in the District Court of Massachusetts. On April 16th, a temporary restraining order was granted to stop the proposal, and now the Department of Energy awaits a trial on April 28th. As URI is an R1 public research institution, they are impacted by the rate cut. URI is continuing to communicate and monitor the situation. For more information, go to URI's Federal Actions website. This has been Casey Chan-Smutko with the Good 5 Cent Cigar. Back to you.
Thanks, Casey. While students gear up for finals, URI held an end-of-the-year celebration on the Quad on Wednesday. Peyton Luiz has more on the event.
I'm Peyton Luiz, and I'm here on the Quad for URI Day. This is a day where students can come to the Quad and explore all of the different things that URI has to offer.
It's a day of giving. Everyone's out here. It's really nice to see everyone engaged on campus. Now that it's nice out, everyone's kind of getting involved again, which is super nice to see. I'm out here, like I said, with my friends. We were just walking from class, and it's cool to get involved.
We need more water in here.
You need more water. No, they make me pay the fine, so I'm not going.
Today is the day of giving, so that's an opportunity for folks to give back to URI, alumni, etc., and it's also a beautiful day on campus. So opportunity to come out, field day, student involvement is giving away some great prizes. You can get pictures with Rhody, make your own graduation camp, and of course, the famous hot dogs and popcorn on our campus too.
Oh yeah. Oh my God. What was pissing me off?
I'm Peyton Luiz, reporting for the Good 5 Cent Cigar. Back to you.
Thanks, Peyton. On Tuesday, reporter John Moran headed out to the Quad to visit the Earth Day celebration.
I'm John Moran, a contributing reporter here at the Good 5 Cent Cigar. We are here on URI Quad, experiencing Earth Day.
Put together by the Student Action for Sustainability, Earth Day on the Quad featured tables, games, and merchandise from various student groups. 25 clubs and organizations attended this year's event. 70 degrees and shining, the event had students shop and thrift sustainably, listen to live music, share class projects, and learn about the environment. Earth Day on the Quad was celebrated from 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. Thanks, John. Looking ahead, here's what's going on next week at URI. On Friday, join the Italian Club for the end-of-the-year bash in Swan Hall. Food and games are open to all students. The event is from 3 to 4 p.m. This weekend, URI Theater will continue their musical comedy, Guys and Dolls, in the Fine Arts Center Robert E. Will Theater. Purchase tickets on the URI Theater website. On Saturday, join the Musicians Guild in front of the Union for their Guildy Fest. Hear live music featuring many URI bands from noon to 8 p.m. The event is free to all. Also on Saturday, the Surfrider Foundation Club is hosting a beach cleanup on a state beach at 11 a.m. This is one of their last cleanups of the semester. With that, I'll hand it off to David Okula with this week's Rhody Sports Corner.
Thanks, Ellie. Hello and welcome to the Rhody Sports Corner, your place for all the latest updates across URI athletics. I'm David Okula. For the first time since a historic 2024 season came to an end in the FCS playoffs, fans got the chance to see the football team in action at its annual spring game on Saturday. The scrimmage provided the first look at some of the team's new additions along with their returning stars. Here's Michael Petraske with the story from Meade Stadium.
I'm here at Meade Stadium where the URI football team just finished their annual Blue-White Spring Game, a scrimmage where Rhody fans can come and watch how the team looks before they start their pursuit of back-to-back CAA titles this fall.
The rules of the spring game were simple. The offense needed to make a 28-point comeback by the end of 4 10-minute quarters with a running clock. Ty Groff got the scoring started for the Rams as he hit this 43-yard field goal in the first quarter. Devin Farrell was 15 of 21 with 2 touchdowns in the game. Here's what head coach Jim Fleming had to say on Farrell's performance as he returns from his hand injury.
I think his performance has been outstanding. You know, we had some shifts in our schematic structure with coaching, and you know he's done some things at a very, very high level with some new things. Some of the stuff you didn't see today that you may see next week. But you know he's a complete package. He can run and he can throw it. He's
leadership ability has continued to grow, so I couldn't be happier with what we have as our QB1.
The defense as a whole shined in the game as they forced a safety on Farrell, blocked a field goal, and held the offense to 0 points in the second half. Cornerback Andre DePina Gray had this to say about the defense's performance.
Absolutely. As you can see, we're a young defense. You know, it's kind of a flip-flop from last year. Last year was a new offense, new guys, new quarterback. Now on defense, kind of flip-flop. We have new guys coming in. Younger guys are finally getting their opportunity, getting their shot. And it's really good to see the chemistry and the bond that we're bringing. You know, obviously the first spring, it's guys coming together trying to figure out how to play a D1 college defense. It's going to look crazy, but, you know, this spring, it was a really good product that we put out there, and I'm very excited to see what we do in training camp.
Farrell took the time to talk about his journey to recovery from the hand injury and how he leaned on his faith to get him through.
I would say from that time, injured, I was in the bathroom of Delaware crying, you know, talking to God, and, you know, he was just pretty much telling me it's going to be all right.
For the Rhody Sports Corner, I'm Michael Petraske.
Baseball hosted Dayton for a 3-game set this weekend, where Rhody swept the Flyers to jump into first place in the Atlantic 10 Conference standings. The Rams kicked the series off with a back-and-forth 11-10 win on Friday. Gerard Villemenay has the story from Bilbeck Field.
The University of Rhode Island's men's baseball team hosted the University of Dayton on Friday afternoon, where the Rams and the Flyers went at it in a very close game where the Rams came out on top 11-10. Rhode Island began the game with a 5-1 lead at the bottom of the second inning. When the game seemed to be over, the Flyers clawed their way back into the match while tying the ball game in the fourth inning. In the final inning, with Rhode Island leading 11-10, the Flyers attempted to tie the game once more, but fourth-year Eric Gempter ruined Dayton's hopes by catching a flying ball in the outfield and immediately throwing towards home plate, eliminating 2 Dayton runners during the play.
I feel great. I mean, it's a really big win. Anytime you can take the first game of a series against a good team, you know, obviously the standings, everyone's super tight at the top. So, I mean, it was an amazing ending. You know, great throw. So it was awesome to get the first win in the series.
Obviously, we feel great to get a win right now. We knew it was going to be a 9-inning fight. You know, these guys, they can hit. They've hit all year. There's a reason, you know, we're tied in the standings coming into today. So they're a really good team, and we knew that it wasn't going to be easy. So our focus was just to play 9 innings all day and hopefully come out victorious in the end, and that's what we did.
Reporting from Bilbeck Field, my name is Gerard Villemenay, Rhody Sports Corner.
As for some other scores and results around campus this week, following its sweep over Dayton, baseball remained home for an in-state matchup against Brown on Wednesday. Softball had its losing streak stretched to 8 games after getting swept by St. Bonaventure on the road over the weekend. Then the Rams took a trip to UMass for a midweek doubleheader on Wednesday. Men's and women's track and field both traveled to the Yukon Northeast Challenge this weekend, where the men placed second out of 14 teams. The women's team sent the rest of their athletes to the Holy Cross Invitational on Saturday, where they placed third out of 5 teams. Ahead of the A10 tournament this week, women's tennis wrapped up its regular season on Saturday with a 4-2 loss to UMass. Finally, women's rowing competed against Northeastern and Dartmouth at the Lake Maury Regatta on Saturday. That's all for this week's edition of the Rhody Sports Corner. To stay updated with all things URI athletics, follow us on X @cigar_sports. Back to you, Ellie.
That's all we have for you this week. Thank you so much for tuning in. Be sure to follow us here and on Instagram at Rhody Cigar, and pick up our print paper anywhere on campus to stay up to date with all your Rhody news. Find us online at rhodycigar.com. Until next time, I'm your host, Ellie Sennhenn. This is the Good 5 Cent Cigar Newscast. Thank you so much for joining us this semester. Until next time, have a great week, Rhody.